carbon dioxide. Just like think of a soda that's warmed up and you open it and it spews carbon dioxide, right? When you warm the ocean, you get outgassing of CO2, which then causes further warming. Okay, methane, ice, melts and bubbles up. This is going to be a huge effect in the future as the ocean is uncovered. That is a more powerful greenhouse gas. There are probably as much methane deposits that could be released from the Arctic as there is CO2 in the air already. So if that happens, we will have runaway greenhouse and we will have over 8 degrees centigrade. That will be serious. Okay, now let's look at the effect. If you have human industry burning coal, oil, and gas, more CO2. This would cause melting of the polar cap, land exposed, the tundra rots, you get biogas coming up from the ocean, and you have runaway global warming. This is called The Point of No Return by Greg Hover. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we have in fact experienced about 1 degree of warming considering the history of the Earth. And I added this last point here as being the data point for this year. It's going to be the hottest year ever on record. And the hottest before that was 2015, and the hottest before that was 2014. So we're having an episode of increased warming for sure. If we continue with business as usual, we'll have over 4 degrees centigrade warming, which will lead to runaway greenhouse. If we strictly limit the warming, and keep this at this target of 2 degrees warming, then we might be able to keep the planet habitable, right? So strict CO2 limiting could lead to that. And what do I mean by strict CO2 limiting? Well, we would have to actually, this is global emissions of carbon dioxide. We're going to have to start limiting it as soon as possible so that we can go into this 2 degree pathway. If we don't, if we keep business as usual, then we're going to get to this over 8 degrees Fahrenheit warming, and the Earth would be okay. Earth has gone there before, millions and millions of years ago. It's humans and human society which is going to be impacted, in the biosphere the way it is. So we're going to have to bring our emissions of CO2 down, and the only way to do that is transition from fossil fuel to, renewable energy, which I'm going to get to. Okay, so the evidence is really overwhelming that all of these effects here show that humans are changing the climate, and 97% or more of scientists say so. And let me just say a word about some scientists. Over 10,000 publications in 2013 showed that humans are causing global warming, and only 2 of those publications didn't agree with that. So there are some deniers, including some politicians, some weathermen. Maybe you've heard, something pronouncements from physicists, engineers that say, well, it's all a big hoax. These 10,000 scientists are all colluding to perpetrate a hoax so that they can keep their grant money flowing. That's one of the excuses that's given. Well, let me tell you, as a scientist, I take great umbrage at that, because scientists are just not like that. Scientists are after the truth. And if 10,000 people here were all colluding, well, if even 2 of them spoke up and pointed out, no, it's not a hoax, if 2 of them spoke differently, and then it turned out that was true, they would be the ones which all the other scientists would go to. They would be the famous scientists like Einstein in his time and so forth. So scientists are after the truth, and it's impossible that this could be a hoax, because the other scientists would simply call it out, and it would be a big scandal, and then it would be over with. The truth would be out. That's the way science works. So it's impossible for it to be a hoax. So now, the Earth has a bad fever. And it's actually the biosphere, not the planet itself. The rocks are going to be fine, the Earth is going to be fine, but the biosphere is actually a superorganism which needs to be maintained at the proper temperature for life. And so this temperature actually is too hot. So it's too hot because we did it. We burned too much fuel. So therefore, we are going to have to be the doctors. We're going to have to be the doctors and lower the fever and make it more habitable and take care of the biosphere.